We live in a day and age, whether it's online and in person, there's a lot of tension. You can feel it in the air. I've been on Clubhouse quite a bit, checking that out. If you don't know what it is, it's basically, think of it like an audio conference happening at a convention center, and you can pop in and out of virtual rooms to hear conversations that are happening. You know, the idea is free speech. For me, free speech doesn't mean free from consequences or free from the impact of your words. So it requires a lot of trust, a lot of unearned trust to go into these rooms. And it requires a lot of vulnerability. You can't have trust without vulnerability. When we find ourselves in a situation, and whether it's conversations in relationship, whether it's in friendships or work relationships with family, with a lover or your partner, people who you're familiar with, or people you're meeting for the first time, what you need in order to have the trust is that you need to be able to tell people things. You need to be able to confide and give feedback. Part of that is feeling that you can do that, that there is space to do that, that you are invited, that it's welcomed, and that you are someone that welcomes it. And so it's a dance of trust, right? Because if I'm going to take a step forward to talk to you about something that you've said that hasn't landed well with me or with someone else, I need to feel safe enough that I trust you enough that I can take a step forward and call you in, pull you aside, and share this information with you, this feedback. The other side of that coin is how you receive that feedback. I can take a step forward in accountability and with humility and hear what's being said, and I can apply it. But it's creating the environment and the space where people feel comfortable that they can do that they can come forward and talk to you about something. Think of it like, you know how these days we are so hyper mindful of who is in our physical space, that 6 feet around us, that radius when we go out and about because of the pandemic. You know, for people of other genders, it's not something new, being mindful of the physical space and who's in your physical space. But for cis men in particular, it's a newer concept to be even that much more vigilant and thoughtful around who is in my bubble, being present and mindful of who is in my space. So you can think of that emotionally, like we have an emotional 6-foot radius around us, and who we let in and who we delayer, right? Like our layers of, if you will, emotional PPE that we put up to protect ourselves. People we trust and allow in our bubble, we will lower our layers so that the conversation, the connection can be deeper. That's not something we should take for granted. A lot of situations, it's unearned trust. So how do we value and, honor that unearned trust by being someone that's worthy of it? So I think in conversations, in conflict, we can think about, well, how can I show up in a way to take ownership of the things I've said, to be accountable? But it's also, if you're someone who is witness to something, and how you can show up and be supportive in that scenario. Think of, for example, it's Super Bowl Sunday. Super Bowl is this weekend. And what we used to do is gather in person for those who watched, whether they were fans of the sport or just the spectacle. And we'd get together with friends, family, friends of friends, acquaintances would be invited over, or your good friends, whatever the mixture is. And there might be situations of conflict. For example, just one scenario. Let's say there's only one woman amongst the group and everyone else, it's a bunch of guys. The woman is friends with everyone. They're all mutual friends. But someone says something, a man says something that is disappointing or hurtful or harmful to women in general, or perhaps to this woman. And she is left to speak up for herself. Maybe the other people, it didn't register with them. They didn't take it seriously or didn't realize what was being said. So it's on her to kind of speak up, take a step forward and say, hey, that wasn't cool. Or maybe she leaves the room. Maybe she just pulls away and is silent the whole time. The person who's being disappointing or hurtful in their comments may have picked up on it, may be fully aware of what they said, unaware of what they said. But the third party, in this case, let's say it's me, in that moment I can say something. I can pull the person aside later on and in private say, hey, that thing you said, before the first quarter, that joke you made or that comment, I want to talk to you about that because that was just like, it wasn't cool, man. And for me to do that, it's because I care. I care about the space. I care about my relationship with the woman. I care about our friendship circle, and I care about this person who said something upsetting or disappointing. The response needs to be similar, where it's recognizing that this person is sharing this with me because they care, and I've been disappointing. So in this role, it could escalate conflict, right? Because like for me to approach the person, I could be heated up and be like, "Bro, what the fuck? Like, why'd you say that?" I can escalate things, right? It can make it worse. So for me, it's being mindful that in this scenario, I'm not just showing up because I care about the friendship circle and the space. This is what's happened to her. This is the impact it's left on her, and her feeling of being trusting the space, being able to connect, feeling connected to the space, and trusting all of us. Because it's not just that person that was disappointing. All of us, in one way or another, did or didn't show up to kind of have her back, or to kind of de-escalate, or to explore what just happened. But I also am thinking of this person as well. It's my concern and my care for this person. So, because I want them to do better, whether or not they can make amends in that scenario, in that situation with this particular person, perhaps not. But moving forward, this will inform. It's an opportunity to inform their behavior and to do things differently moving forward. But in this role of being the third party, or the bystander, person to speak up and be supportive, I'm not trying to be a hero, and I'm not trying to be a fixer, right? I'm trying to be a helper. I'm trying to help building trust in that community, the fabric again. So I'm being a helper, not just to the woman, but to this gentleman, the man as well. So that's my energy. It changes how I approach the situation. Because if you put yourself in this scenario, nobody likes being told, right? It's difficult. It's upsetting. You get into fight, flight, or freeze mode. And for me, it's all about that fourth F, which is face. I talk a bit about this in a couple of pieces that are up at highearnlearning.com. I have a piece up on men coping through social distancing and isolation. I also have a piece up called Emotional PPE and Other Takeaways for Guys in the Pandemic, where I talk about how, much like people have to layer up to protect ourselves from the virus, women and people of other genders, non-binary folks, emotionally layer up when they have to be online, in a space like Clubhouse, on a dating app, or in person. They layer up an emotional PPE to protect themselves from disappointing or hurtful or harmful comments when they're online or in person. And it's about me creating a space where people feel comfortable to be themselves and to delayer, not because my intention is to delayer them, but I want to be the kind of person that when you're in my space, you feel that I'm not infected with harmful behavior or attitudes. So again, that piece is up, emotional PPE, as well as men coping with social distancing and isolation. Both pieces are up at highearnlearning.com. Check it out. Let me know what you think.